Okay, so here we go. It's
Okay.
our maiden voyage here for the TruthTosterone Channel. I'm the creator, Doug Sooley, here with Joe Sigurdson, the Chief Success Officer of Boys to Men. And I decided to represent with old
There you
school
go.
logo here today. Um, so you and I go back a long way,
Yeah.
about 3 decades now.
Yeah, sir.
We're
Yes, sir.
we were not as wrinkly and had a lot less
Great.
gray.
And plenty of hair, and we were on fire
Yeah.
for
And I
for
think Boys to Men around 96 was when we first started talking about it because Herb was still alive at the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We were on fire for the new warrior training adventure, and we both had some propensity and some skill sets for facilitation, and also recognizing and embracing, our DNA footprint about what it is to be a man and a good man, and
Yeah, that's some of my intention around this is
yeah,
when I first got involved in the work and initiation type stuff. There were men in my life. There were elders that gifted me with, what it was to be a good man. And I mean, growing up, I didn't have that. It was out of my grasp. So a lot of the intention around this is hesitate to use the word cultural because like everything is cultural right now.
yeah,
But there's a lot of what I saw in the last couple of years is there's a lot of like what I label as fairly toxic or poisonous type information that's going out to young men, and young men are being seduced by it and attracted to it.
yeah.
And since we spent so much time delivering a different kind of a message to young men in San Diego, I thought, why don't we create something where, guys can come and, maybe get a little bit of what I got in those days, which was some good, solid elder mentoring. And so that's part of that.
Well, I just wanted to kind of review, our history and the Boys to Men history, and how
Oh, yeah.
where all this came from. We're 30 years into a movement, but the origins were pretty, divinely, coordinated.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There was spirit involved.
Yeah,
You may not remember, but there was a time in one of the meetings, I think this was your house in El Cajon, right?
yeah, La Mesa.
La
Yeah,
Mesa, yeah, yeah. And we were kind of like at this point where like we had a little bit of a vision, but we hadn't done a Adventure Mountain weekend or anything yet. And we were a little bit like, where's this thing going? And you might not remember this, but you at one point you just looked at everybody and you said, we have to kick the scaffolding away. Do you remember that?
yeah,
And you said we're either going to hit the concrete or we're going to be lifted up by angels.
yeah.
And thank God the latter happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, look, we had some near misses though, for sure. But it just felt like there was nothing binding us. Like anything, we were in this, we were in our 30s. Anything was possible. We were full of energy and passion, and we were coming into our own eldership. Our children were in their teens, and we were like ready to, let go of like whatever we thought was important about making money and having fast cars or whatever that is, and then really seeking to find some purpose. And
but
that,
there was a flow. I mean, there was
yeah,
what I call spirit. I really think spirit was just guiding
yeah,
us.
yeah.
We were just all of us kind of able to let go and just go with where the energy was taking us. And
Well,
um,
that was that. Look, Doug, we spent 2 years writing and creating, this manual with policies and protocols and processes. And we met with family therapists and anthropologists, and we said we thought we knew something about what boys were going to need, and we were going to be the ones. We were going to be the ones. And by 10 o'clock Saturday morning on that first weekend, they all wanted to go home. And we took that binder, we threw it in the trash, jumped on a whiteboard and manifested the weekend 45 minutes at a time. And thank God we had, mentors like Bill Wick holding that space with us and helping us to get our minds clearer and let go of whatever we thought we knew and let Spirit manifest the next 45 minutes of this weekend and let it be whatever it's going to be. And
well, we had an abundance of magicians at the time.
Yes, we did.
And that magician energy really allowed the flow to come through. Yeah. I think if we'd have had wonks and stuff, it might have stifled it a bit, but pretty much everybody, from Crines on down, there was just so many men that had this ability to just let go with the flow. Here's where Spirit's taking us. Let's move this direction. And it just was so magical. It just worked out great, every time. It was not that we didn't have, like you said, there were bumps in the road, but mostly it was you and me arguing with each other.
There was a lot of that. but and here it was, there was Spirit. And then but there was also, the boys were telling us.
Yeah.
Listen, we had to just void out any preconcepts of what we thought they needed.
Right.
Pay attention.
Just listening. Yeah.
Listen, watch what they're doing, and then go, okay.
Yeah.
And then the manifesting process of creating, processes like balls of truth, like unmasking the truth, like all these places came from this divine intervention, because whatever we thought we knew wasn't working. So we had to come up with something else. And then that was somehow delivered.
Yeah. We didn't come up with it. That's the point. It was just an organic letting go that allowed Spirit to flow in, and the ideas came. And it was good.
Those were magical times, but those led to new protocols and new processes and new policies
as it should,
because we had to capture this. We had to capture what worked, right?
Well, yeah, and I think in fact, Larkin and I were talking about this earlier today. There's a point where new energy, new blood, new ideas need to filter into the bloodstream, so that because otherwise it gets really rigid and corporate and structured. And, you need some young guy with a great idea to come along and say, hey, why don't we try this? Or I remember one of the last examples I saw that was on a weekend I did before I moved out of San Diego. It was the way that we did the Friday night process.
Yeah.
So things were lined up like a half a dozen stations and stuff.
Yeah.
And some guy just said, I don't even remember exactly what it was now, but he was like, hey, what if we move this process up to here? Wouldn't that smooth?
Yeah.
And it was like, that was a brilliant idea. And after 20 some odd years, nobody had thought about it, but it's smoothed everying out and made it go much, much easier,
It totally has. And we've evolved even from there, all the left brain stuff that happens, we do that all outside of the threshold, where once they enter that sacred space, and then instead of the takeaway table and the sacred, all that stuff gets handled beforehand, and then they meet the gatekeepers and they make the commitment to do the work and they cross through that threshold.
Right.
Now they're put on a rope and they're introduced to the sacred masculine. They're introduced to the king, to the lover, to the warrior, the magician, and they bring some context to their lives about these energies, so that they have an understanding of what they're stepping into. And then they go meet with the
Grandfathers, yeah.
and then they go see the three wise men and out to the field of possibilities. But all of that, all that has been kind of, it's all the same stuff. It's just sequenced in a way where it creates more flow and gets more context, so that when the boys come down into the pit and they're looking at the walls, and there's the king wall and the lover wall and the warrior wall and the magician, now they have a context that, oh, this is what they were talking about, 45 minutes ago. This is the stuff,
Right.
And so it's just evolved. And here's the other thing, Doug. We started this 30 years ago, before there was an internet, before there were smartphones, before there were flip phones.
Mm-hmm.
No kid had a phone in 1998.
Supercomputer in your pocket, yeah.
And so what worked back then with what culturally was going on there, I was I was talking to somebody over the week. I was talking to Patrick Harrington from Boystomen, Texas. He was at the house for the Super Bowl, and I said, when we started this, we would meet at the stadium, at the Holiday Bowl conference room, right? And the parents would stay in the conference room, and I'd take the boys out to Qualcomm Stadium, and we talk about, this is a place where grown men live out their boyhood dreams. They play football, they play baseball, they race motorcycles, they drive monster trucks, they play in front of 60,000 screaming fans. What are your dreams?
Mm-hmm.
And then the boys would talk about their dreams. I said, well, this weekend is an opportunity for you to create a path to start living those dreams. And then I go, how many of you guys are up for a challenge? And 100% of those boys would put their hand up, But then about 2005, when everybody had a flip phone and texting became a thing, and I would do that whole same thing. We weren't in the schools yet. We were just doing the weekends and building the community off that shared experience, and go, how many of you guys are up for a challenge? And like 80% of the guys would do it. There was 20% that said, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for this, And then iPhones came out in 2007, and by 2010, everybody had them. And then now it's not just texting, it's the world. They got
so this feels like a segue to me, because
Yeah.
that's a really good point. So let's dive into what this channel, my vision. So my mission statement that I came up with was counter-programming for young men wanting to make a positive impact with their lives, become leaders, and create a better society. And so when you mention the 80% versus the 100%, this is the dilemma that you and I are very familiar with, and Warren Farrell has written about eloquently in The Boy Crisis. And one of the biggest things is this failure to launch thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that these phones can be very seductive. They're a time suck. They can produce a lot of misinformation, a lot of unhealthy information, and making better choices, and developing relationships, societal relationships, mom and dad, girlfriends, teachers, my cohorts at school, just in general, functioning in society as a more active and applied young man.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we were going to talk about today, hopefully, was like your suggestion is just like, what is a good man?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say most boys want to be good men.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that is something that has stood the test of time. You know, I think what when I was referring to the evolution of technology is also the evolution of our culture, and what worked in 1998 it doesn't work now. And we've got these young, smart guys that are inheriting this work, that are evolving it to meet, these new cultural, societal norms in a way
So
that,
I agree with that premise to a certain point,
uh-huh.
and yet I always come back to me, the heart hasn't evolved in 30 years
Right.
or in 200. If I was working in a field out in Iowa in 1850, I still had a man's heart. I still had that male energy. So yes, we are much more distracted and absorbed with the technology and all that stuff, but the essence of what makes a good man, again, we've got degrees of that with the tech. But my firm belief is that deep down inside, that's still the same. The same stuff when we connected with a 13-year-old in 1998,
Yeah.
and the light went on for him, and you just go, wow,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that hasn't changed to me.
No, you're right about that. You're right about that. And it's in the this is why, when we get to the ranch, we take all that stuff away, and we're in the middle of the Cleveland National Forest at 4,000 feet, surrounded by oak and pine and sage and manzanita and
the energy of the grandfathers, because there's so much of that there in that space. So it really is sacred space. I mean, there's men buried there. There's and there's just the whispers of the grandfathers on the wind all the time. I feel it when I'm there.
Yeah, and we don't know, tens of thousands of years, maybe, because we've got Native American artifacts all over that property.
Yeah, it was sacred native land.
Yeah, so we, and we actually, when we take the boys for the hike onto the sacred land and show them the highlights of the property, we take them to those grinding holes, and we say, we know that Native people lived here. We know that this was a sanctuary, and we want to believe that rites of passage happened right here, and that we're reclaiming this very land for its sacred purpose, and that you are the lucky ones, that you are the ones that get to reclaim this process of men embracing the next generation and pouring into them what it is that they need to know to be accountable, to have integrity, to be compassionate, to have empathy, and what it is to be a good man and a strong man. And so, that resonates with the guys when, they're standing right there. Imagine you're 10 years old and your job is to walk around these oak trees and gather the acorns and bring them to your mom so she can grind them into and make bread to feed the village. And I was like this really happened, and here it is, right here. Here's the physical evidence. And so, so you guys get to be a part of that. You're here, and we are taking you through a sacred process. And
so the next thing that you had on the list for us today was telling the truth.
Yeah.
And you've got notes here that say it's about looking good, peer pressure, the con game are prevalent in our society. Middle school is a starting point for armoring up to look good, is the way you wrote it.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
Well, listen, especially with social media and imagery, everybody wants to look, dashing, intriguing,
Riz.
yeah, Riz, and it's it's a hyperbole of who they are. They want they want to elevate and accelerate and create an image that may not fully align with reality. Imagine that, and social media is just this supercharger, turbocharge to create the persona,
The avatar, right?
the avatar of who you are and what your life looks like, right? And
so you talked about
yeah,
creating safe spaces for these men to let down their armor and take off their masks and tell the truth about themselves.
Yeah, and
it isn't the avatar.
Yeah, and so the men are the ones that create that sacred liminal space. That
modeling it,
modeling it by sharing our stories. Talking about what happened to us. How we felt, the choices we made, the price we paid for some of those choices. And really letting the guys know that the stuff that they're going through, we've gone through, and
I wrote a piece on the Substack a little while back called "We Are Our Stories." I don't know if you read that one. There's about a half a dozen posts on there now to introduce people to this effort. And I took some of the ideas from Arnie. In fact, he was what inspired me to write it, because I saw a post of his on LinkedIn and I was like, I want to write about stories, because that's when the really, my experience is when the real truth comes out, when all that stuff. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. This was up in Folsom at Inside Circle. One of the early ones we did. I don't remember the guy's name, but at the time he was the top dog on the yard. So, it's a very political system inside. And this guy was, so we were trying to set up the work, and Don and Bob Peterson at the time and Bill Wick was there. And this guy who's, again, I mean, he's the Don. He is the guy that runs the yard.
Right.
He walks into the room and he goes like this, grabs his chest, throws his hands out like this. He walks over to this pillar in the middle of the room and he just goes, bam, and he smashes his hands up against the pillar. And he turns around and he looks at the men in the room and he goes, that's my armor. It's off now. Let's get to fucking work.
Yeah.
And everybody clicked in. All right. Well, let me move on to the next piece.
Well, let me just talk about armoring up and
good.
And dropping the armor. And so when the boys are sitting with a grown man that's talking about when he was 13 and his house was a war zone and he never knew who was coming through the door at the end of the day, kind of depended on how much he had to drink, and the fear that they were navigating and trying to become invisible and trying to normalize it and trying to make it okay, and then and trying to quiet the abuse that was going on right in front of them and pretending it was okay. And when a man is sharing about this, and when a man says to them, he goes, and then the day came when he comes to me and he says, I can't do this anymore. I'm out of here. You're the man of the house. And a man says he goes, who does that to a 14-year-old? I had to make a choice between the two most powerful and loving people in my life. Who puts themselves in that position? And now I'm the man of the house, and then, so, what do you guys know about the pain of divorce? And so we take
the insanity of the abuse, the trauma,
whatever. But it's not until the men can authentically connect with their own 14, 15-year-old trauma and share honestly about what happened to us and how we felt and the choices we made and the price we paid. When a man can do that to kind of set the bar for authenticity and vulnerability and sharing, that just creates that liminal space and permission.
Yeah, the circle widens, it opens up. Maybe a quarter to a third of the kids that are in the room at that moment identify immediately with that insane, potentially drunken person coming through the room and trying to hide, trying to be invisible, like you said. I mean, that's my story, so I know it all too well.
Yeah.
You know, and it creates some pretty messed up thinking in your head.
Yeah.
And just the ability, and then the other magic that happens there is when they start to share among themselves, not just with the older men, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the men set the bar, the boys step in, and they start talking about what's happening to them. And the kid next to them is going, hey, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's happening in my house too.
Yeah.
And like how disarming the truth is.
Yep.
You know, like I'm not alone, you know? And then when we've got the truth on the table, now we can make meaningful choices from an authentic place.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this is when the real authentic young man comes forward, because now he's in emotional intelligence. He's in EQ.
That's right.
He's got some literacy that A, I'm not alone, and B, being afraid there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
You know, that's normal to feel fear, you know?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he's connected with, I can relate to that feeling, and just being able to recognize it in my body. Yeah. You know, my body's tight, my breathing is shallow, my palms are sweaty. I'm afraid, you know, and I'm afraid all the time, and this is not normal. And then he's got compatriots on either side that can support him through that, you know.
Yeah. And then that makes that normal, and they're not freak shows, you know. They're like, oh, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's breath in that, you know. It's like
power in that.
Geez, this isn't a secret. Oh, thank God. You know, I thought I was going to have to carry this my whole life, and now
there's just immense power that comes from that, though. You know, in fact, I'll blow my horn. I mean, I just wrote a piece on Saturday about grief, and, you know, where it's the ability to light your life on fire when you touch that feeling that you haven't been able to name, haven't really been able to put your head around it, and now you're clear. This is what's going on. Now it's like that flame just like gets fed and this fire rises up. And to me, that's the real masculine. That's where the power of manliness comes through. In fact, in the post, I said, Seneca said that you know, that we needed to basically not assault, I forget the way he worded it, was, you know, but conquer. He said we need to conquer the grief. So that's a manly aspect. It's a warrior aspect. To say, I'm not going to hide from it. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm just going to go through right on into that. Even if it really frickin' hurts, I'm going to do it. And now I've got this juice that I didn't have before. You know, it's rising up in me.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about, you know, dropping the con game, getting real, getting authentic, and that the men's role in that is critical. And that, you know, we're just giving them permission by you know, being vulnerable ourselves, and it's a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. And we get the truth on the table, and now we can start making some meaningful choices from an authentic place. And when they make those choices, they're being witnessed, they're being honored, they're being validated for their feelings, and they're offered support and accountability in their choices. And that's when the path just, you know, takes a new direction, and they're not alone, you know. What's next?
Playing the game.
Playing the game.
What are you doing that perpetuates the discourse you're experiencing in class, home, your teammates, your friends? Are you a victim? Would you help reduce friction or animosity? What do you really want out of these relationships? What are you willing to do to help yourself and maybe those you're in relationship with?
Yeah. Yeah. So, when a guy comes to circle and talks about how, his math teacher is picking on him, and he's in victim. I go, yeah, but, okay, so picking on you for what? Uh, you know, I
I'm
didn't.
3 assignments behind.
I didn't do my homework. So, and he's and that's his fault. You didn't do your homework. Yeah, well, he's just an asshole about it. Yeah, okay, good. So what's your part? And then talking about, well, what do you really want? You want this guy off your back? What's the game you got to play? Because I tell you what, this is give and take. If you take some steps towards the middle, that somebody's going to meet you there and get you across the finish line. That's just how life works. But if everything is about resistance, if everything is about justification, if everything is about challenging and feeling like you all you're doing is screwing yourself in
Right.
the process. So how is that working? And yeah.
And then it may be even more of a struggle. My experience is, even if you get the guy to see he's trying to one up the situation, he may still be stuck in that failure to launch mode. Yeah. So he may even say, the guy across the room who says, look, I kick ass in math. I'd be more than happy. You call me tonight. I'll walk you through, that chapter or that problem or whatever. And he won't pick the phone up.
Never hears from him. Yeah. The offer's on the table and nobody. Yeah. Well, yeah. So those are the things. But then we get to come back the next week and see the inaction and say, look, dude, how's that working?
Yeah.
What do listen, if you really want these things, you got to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You got to meet folks halfway. You got to have some initiative, some demonstrate something, so that people can see that you're not just here to make their lives miserable, which is a lot of what teachers feel.
Sure.
When they had come up against all this adolescent resistance to buying in and thinking that they're somehow winning something, when all they're doing is digging the hole deeper,
Right.
So, but if
I think even with the accountability stuff, that a lot of times it helps if his cohorts really get on him, and hold his feet to the fire and say, hey man, you told us last week you were 3 assignments behind, I call bullshit on you.
Yeah.
You were given a way to fix that and you didn't do anything about it. Instead of coming from a facilitator is what I'm saying, that it helps it.
Oh, the peer-to-peer mentoring that goes on is gold. Like, that's when everybody just needs to shut up and step back and let the boys
work it out.
Yeah. That's a process, that's a process. But when we get to that point in the process, that's really as good as it gets.
Yeah, it depends on the group. I mean, there's got to be a level of maturity in the group, and
for sure.
Okay, so the next one we had was the man battle. How do you let yourself off the hook? What gets in the way of you doing what you believe is the right thing? What's the price you're paying for compromising what you believe in? How do you say yes to your soul?
Yeah, the man battle. We know what's right. We know injustice when we see it. Do we step in? We know it's right. We know what we got to do. Do we do it? And then when we don't do it, how do we let ourselves off the hook? What kind of man do you want to be? And what's in the way of you being that guy? And, these circles are designed to help connect the dots between, the behaviors that boys are taking part in, and, the events, the traumas, the beliefs, what happened to them that they felt like this is how it had to be, and this is what they had to do. And, when they can connect the dots between what happened to them, how they felt, what they believed about themselves, and the behaviors that were manifested out of that belief. Now we've got an opportunity to make new choices. Now this is the opportunity for change, because when you can connect those dots and bring consciousness to that, it becomes a choice. Whereas before, a lot of it's just a default or survival mechanism. So,
or the battle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And yeah. The battle. Yeah. Figuring it out. Right. Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what's motivating me to not take the action when I know I need to take the action.
Right.
And once I've been able to identify those blocks, I have an opportunity to, as you put it, say yes to my soul,
Yeah. We sometimes, we just kind of buy into what's easy, what's expected, whatever mythology has been created around us, and support that, instead of really fighting through what we know we really want and what we know is the right thing to do. And, so, the man battle falls right into playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
When I know I should be doing my homework and getting my assignments done, and I'm making excuses for myself and letting myself off the hook, and then I become a victim of the teacher's fallout. Like, okay, so if I fight this man battle, what's going to be the payoff going to be?
I always like to present that to the guy as a power battle.
Yeah.
So who's got the power? You say you're a victim. The teacher's not treating you the way you think you're supposed to be treated. And have you surrendered your power now to that teacher?
Yeah.
Or what can you do now to claim your own power? She's going to be the way she's going to be. If she's going to be bitchy and sounds like she's always on your case, that's just the deal. You're going to have to deal with that. But are you going to allow yourself to be subjugated by that? Or will you step into your power and say, but I will show the teacher I have the ability to produce, and this now from my own power, I'm going to produce this stuff.
But, and if you don't have a community around you that's creating that pathway, that logic model for the boys to fall into, and then praising that and empowering them to execute, on their own behalf for themselves, it's hard to figure that stuff out alone.
Yeah.
It's just easier just to give up or acquiesce or surrender. It's like,
take the F.
I'll just get lost in this thing. I'll be okay. I'll just get lost here. If we're not providing arenas for boys to experience this and figure out how to apply this stuff, we're just leaving them on their own to figure it out. And this is not stuff that a lot of guys can figure out. And if they've only got one voice in their head that's leading all the decision, I don't know about you, but I'm in bad company with that. So having a community, having a sounding board, having guys that have walked the path, having their peer mentors that have figured something out, and they can share with them their breakthroughs and show that it's possible, it's tangible. This is not some sort of a theoretical formula. There's some practicality in how we can apply this stuff and make changes and new choices and new outcomes in our lives. That's a comfort for a lot of young men, that are looking for some answers,
Okay, well, let's move on to the last one here. which is, are you a good friend? What does it mean to be a good friend? Have you betrayed someone you love? How does that feel? How do you clean up your mess? What changes do you want to make to be more consistent, being the friend you want to be and having the friend you want around you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are questions, and those are scenarios and challenges that boys are walking through all the time, And, when you've got a friend that has demonstrated who he is, and has been there for you, and then reacts to something out of anger, or out of sadness, and what's the emotional bank account that you're going to give this guy a pass for that, or do you end the relationship? Like, are you that insecure that you just got to let it go because he yelled at you, or he's, got angry at you, So, yeah. So when we talk about the strength of friendships, and that, we're not all 100% exactly who we want to be all the time, and recognizing the grace that people have bestowed upon us for our shortcomings, and being able to give that grace to somebody else, that is a big part of friendship, that we're imperfect beings screwing up and figuring it out, and that
Kind of comes back to your
it comes back to how
community
to clean up your
piece.
mess. Right. Yeah. Well, it comes back to, how do you clean it up? How do you take ownership for your part? Take responsibility for what you said or what you did, and make those amends. And this is the beauty in our 12-step work. The 10th step. Continue to take a daily inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. Well,
I knew I forgot to do something today.
That's the get out of jail free card, because it's so disarming. We just got to disarm. If we really love somebody, we're not going to keep pushing them away. We got to look at what's triggered in us,
Mm-hmm.
and what can we take back? What can we take ownership for? How do we clean up our mess, make our amends, and recognize, it's not that important. And what's really important is the relationship, and preserving that. So, it's amazing how smart these guys are and how quickly they catch on to this stuff, because, it's like they want the same things that we want in our lives, and we're all looking for more freedom, And
well, I do think that there's an intuition in most of these young men about wanting to do better and be better. But there's been this, due to the tech and all this other stuff, there's this really fast path seduction.
Yeah.
Fuck
them.
Yeah. Well, that I can get on my phone and I can watch a video of somebody that's, very vitriolic or angry or misogynist or
judgmental.
Judgmental. Yeah. Representing energies that I know don't line up with me and the man I want to be, but it just becomes so easy to go down that route, into that rabbit hole. And
it's acceptable. Like, somehow culturally it's acceptable,
Yeah, it's become more and more so. All right. This is the point where I ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with people that you know. All of this helps to feed the algorithms. Thank you. Okay, so the point of what we're doing here is to build a platform where we're going to hopefully, we will be having some guests come on to discuss topics regarding masculinity, young men, and there'll be experts who know more about a lot of this stuff than you and I do. Yeah. Some of these guys have as much experience as you and I do in working with young men.
Yeah.
So some of the topics that we outlined was financial planning, which I think is important for these young guys. Especially again, going back to the tech. I mean, there's so much of this like instant draw with like this crypto and all this other stuff out there where guys are thinking, I can get rich quick, on a meme coin or something. So some solid, intelligent, here's what you do. You've got the job, you stick X amount away each week. You put a little bit into a managed fund, a little bit into money market, a little bit into the bonds, whatever, some type of investment type strategy.
Yeah. This is, we don't do this for our kids. We don't, this, and if we can start introducing them to, financial responsibility and what it takes to take care of yourself, then they're in a position to help take care of others as well. And so,
that's a big piece of Warren's book. He talks quite a lot about that.
Yeah.
Men being able to provide and that type of thing, which is a masculine draw, Right. So another one was tribal pole gangs.
Yeah. Well, gangs are providing a huge resource for our young men. They're giving, they get to belong to something bigger and greater than themselves. They get,
it's the community that you talked about just a little while ago.
Yeah. They get community, they get respect, they get acknowledged, they get responsibility. And when they perform, they get elevated, and, so the gangs are providing the same things that we as a boys to men community are providing. And so
the lack of initiation has allowed gang psychology to proliferate.
Yeah.
Because they weren't brought into a circle of men to say, this is the way to be a good man. We're going to honor you. We're going to respect you. We're going to listen to you. And so, I mean, it's a natural, filling of a void that the boy had because we weren't giving young men these time-honored traditions of initiation. So,
right.
Okay, another one is just what is masculinity? We've kind of gone over those topics. Integrity and character, disposability of men and boys. I'd like to hear someone speak on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of ideas about that, but I think culture, again, is just so big in how, it portrays men as a lot of times as buffoonish and incompetent, right. And can't even find the
Homer Simpson.
Can't find the channel changer in the couch cushion. Yeah. And then interacting with girls, I think that's another topic we'd like to touch on. Technology is so huge, but and then just keeping up with schoolwork. The gaming community is another topic I think that we'll want to touch on, and then just community in general. So some of the guys that you, let me pull up that document.
Yeah. We've been on this path for 30 years, Doug. We've run into some, prolific guys that, have aligned with us to be in this battle.
So are we going to name names and then say, come and watch this video, and now we've got you on the hook? Yeah. Arnie Rubenstein or Ashanti Brad?
Arna Rubenstein, who out of Australia and runs the Institute of Initiation.
Rites of Passage.
Yeah. So Arna is, we are brothers from different mothers and have been.
He is absolutely golden. I've watched a number of his videos, and he's just
love to get Arna on here. Ashanti Branch, they have a board club up in Oakland that he's taken his show on the road and bringing his technology and his message into school assemblies. He's just absolutely brilliant, and bringing consciousness to young men. Earl Hip is an author, and he wrote a book called Man Making, and he's been in this work forever. And he was part of the Boystomen, Minnesota community, and he was a snowbird, so he's also tied in with the Boystomen Tucson community. So Earl's a great ally and a great resource. Ted Browdy, out of Detroit, he's the boy whisperer, and he's just a wonderful resource for men, mentors, and for boys. And then I've got a good friend of mine up in Los Angeles who is a school principal. His name is Maurice Regalado. And, he's got a horrendous backstory, abandoned by his father, joined a gang, spent his 17th and 18th birthdays incarcerated, knew that education was going to be his ticket out. And, he's got his master's degree in education, and he's bringing boys to men technology and boys to men and methodology into his schools. And he's running a program up there called the Lion's Den, and love to have Maurice come and share his journey and all that he's learned. And then Brandon Stepp. Yeah, Brandon, is running David's Harp. Is that what
Harp Foundation? Yeah.
Yeah, David's Harp Foundation, and he's taking kids straight out of juvenile hall and giving them this. He's got this studio, recording studio, and television studio, and they're able to get their poetry and their rap and their music and their creativity out and produced in with very high quality. All the equipment came from the Discovery Channel, so this is like high production quality stuff.
Yeah.
And they're doing great stuff, and they're taking those skill sets and teaching kids how to market that and produce videos for clients, and get paid, So Brandon's got an amazing program. So there's
Billy Moore, you mentioned.
Billy Moore, is the
ABC Youth Foundation.
Right. And Billy has created this safe haven in a pretty gnarly neighborhood down on 31st and Market. And they've got a computer lab, they've got a library, they've got tutors, and the kids all have to get their homework done before they can go into the gym, and they've got a gym, and they teach them boxing. And of course, Billy is the son of legendary boxer Archie Moore, and Archie actually started this organization 67 years ago, and Billy is carrying his dad's legacy on. And ABC Youth is doing some wonderful, and Billy is a wealth of information on how he's navigating all the gnarly situations that young kids are facing in his neck of the woods. And
the last name that we got on the list, Craig McLean.
Oh. That guy is a freaking genius, dude. I learned so much of that guy. Can disassemble an entire and do an assessment and then put things back together in a way that nobody could have possibly configured or seen. And he's just brilliant how he can just make sense out of nonsense. And
what a heart. I mean, geez.
Yeah, that guy, when we started this, Craig gave up his lucrative career as a high fashion model for $2,000 a day plus per diem in the Bahamas or Alaska or whatever season it was, and he walked away from all that to be the executive director of Boys to Men. And
I remember in the early days, Crines and I we used to kind of split the boys up because we took them at like all ages basically in the beginning because we didn't know what we were doing. So we had 12 to 18 sometimes on a weekend, and Crines and I would always take the older guys like the 15, 16, 17, and we'd be downstairs, and then you and Craig would usually be upstairs with the younger guys. And I remember one time taking a break, me and Crines working down in the pit. And I walked upstairs and I opened up the door to the A-frame and I went in, and Craig is down on his knee in front of this young kid, probably 12, and he's just got the waterworks going. You know, and I'm just watching this magic as this kid is just completely open and Craig's just there like, you know, and it was like the whole room was just like this, like silence. Well, these
reverence.
Reverence. So that's my greatest memory of Craig is seeing him, you know, he's down on one knee, he's eye to eye with this young kid, you know. And
the small. He does know how to make himself
the love that he was able to show to these young guys. Amazing. Thanks again for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications button so you'll be alerted when new videos are up. Share with your friends. If you have any ideas for topics or you are interested in speaking on the channel or even contributing to the Substack with a post, contact us at TruthTosterone@gmail.com. Thanks again.